Governor Ugwanyin of Enugu State-led PDP zoning committee has agreed to zone the chairmanship seat of the party to the north ahead of the party's national convention. And as INEC insists on the use of Bimodal accreditation system for Anambra governorship election tonight, we dissect the issues the umpire will have to deal with ahead of the November 6th governorship election, plus some security matters we'll take up tonight on the program. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalo in our Abuja studio here in the nation's capital. Thank you so much everyone for staying with us. Let's begin by telling you some of the latest news coming from the People's Democratic Party, Nigeria's main opposition party. The party today has decided to zone the chairmanship position of the party to the northern region of the country. The National Zoning Committee of the People's Democratic Party, led by Governor Ugwanyin of Enugu State, today announced that the next national chairman of the party will emerge from the northern region of the country. Governor Ugwanyin of Enugu State told news conference in Abuja that the zoning committee also recommended that the current leadership of the party will swap position between north and south. However, the committee did not make any recommendation for the zoning of the presidency, vice presidency, or other executive and legislative positions. Governor Ugwanyin explains that such decision is outside the terms of reference of the committee. Well then, let's tell you more about some of the political stories you need to know on our political roundup.
It's been identified that addressing the insecurity challenges in the northeast region of Nigeria, there should be a comprehensive approach that will involve the use of military firepower and, most importantly, the use of non-military approach to address the root causes of terrorism and insurgency. In separate lectures delivered to participants at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Jos by the Chief of Army Staff and the Governor of Borno State, the approach to solving the security challenges in the region should involve the socio-economic and political dimension as well as the military option in winning the insurgency war.
Go to the slums of Kano. Go to the slums of Maiduguri. See the number of unemployed youths. It's a matter of great concern. So we need to address all these problems.
Delta State Governor Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa on Thursday signed into law the Delta State Livestock, Breeding, Rearing and Marketing Regulation Bill 2021, urging the federal government to assist interested farmers to establish ranches across the country, while also encouraging cattle breeders to embrace ranching as a new and convenient way of rearing animals in order to prevent clashes between farmers and herders, as well as ensure food security in the country. Governor Okowa spoke shortly after assenting to the Delta State Livestock Breeding, Rearing and Marketing Regulation Bill 2021, also known as the Anti-Open Grazing Bill, into law at the Government House, Asaba.
That we must start to look into other ways of ensuring that we're able to breed and that we're able to rear our cattle and other livestock in such a manner that is acceptable in modern times. And we believe that this is something workable.
Thank you so much everyone for staying with us right here on the program. Let's tell you that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will deploy the Bimodal voter accreditation system in the November 6th governorship election in Anambra State, and as one that it will help to identify voting thieves, and they have also told them to steer clear of polling units during the exercise. The new technology, according to INEC, which combines fingerprints and facials, will be the only means of authenticating voters at the November governorship election, and anyone who fails the authentication will not be allowed to vote. There's a lot more about the Anambra governorship election and the preparations there. Don't forget that some gunmen have attacked INEC facilities in that state, and the kind of situation that is happening in Anambra State calls for some concern. But INEC says it has fixed all of these things, and they are working to ensure that that election is delivered. So let's speak tonight with INEC National Commissioner in charge of voter education and publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye joins us now. Thank you so much, Mr. Okoye, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
First and foremost, you had some of your facilities destroyed by these criminals. How far? You said you have fixed all of those. Everything is now set. That's what you said.
Well, we've fixed a substantial number of them. Our pavilion or collation center was destroyed. The collation center is up now. Our stores, where we normally store electro materials, generating sets, and the rest of them was destroyed. We have fixed the store. We have also fixed the main building that was also engulfed in one way or the other by fire and also damaged. So we fixed a substantial number of the facilities. So the implication is that we are now able to move materials back to the OCA office for deployment and delivery to the local government offices of the commission. So we are confident that we've fixed a substantial number of all those facilities that were destroyed, and they are ready to receive materials now.
So in essence, we understand also that the non-sensitive materials are already on the ground.
Not exactly. What we normally do is we still have some time to the governorship election on the 6th of November. So what we are now doing is that we have zonal stores, and we are going to move what we call non-sensitive materials to the zonal to the OCA Anambra office of the commission, and this involves voting cubicles, ballot boxes, ink pads, biro, and all those non-sensitive materials required for the conduct of election. Those are the things that we go to Anambra State first. So in the next few days, those materials will begin their movement to the office. But the sensitive materials required for the conduct of elections are not yet there. These materials will be moved under security cover to the central bank and to other secure facilities before the election. So some of them are going to get to Anambra State at least a week to the election. But the Bimodal voter accreditation system and other sensitive materials may arrive first, but the ballot papers and result sheets will arrive maybe a week to the election.
So you're phasing out what we are used to, the smart card readers.
Yes.
We are now used to it. At least we've used it in how many election cycles now?
Two electoral cycles.
Two electoral cycles now.
Yes.
And so that will not happen. So a number of people should be prepared for something new, isn't it? So have you trained, before I get into the details and the technicalities of the use of the Bimodal accreditation system, have you trained your staff for it?
Well, but as you pointed out, we are more or less retiring the smart card reader. The smart card reader has performed well. It has served this country well. It served for almost 2 electoral cycles with the all by-elections and other off-season elections that we have had. So the issue now is that there are more modern technologies in the market, and that is exactly what we are doing. So we are deploying the Bimodal voter accreditation system for the purposes of the Anambra governorship election. The implication is that what we are now doing is that we have what we call technological convergence. This BVAS is what we're also using for voter enrollment. The continuous voter registration exercise, we are using the same technology for it. So when we are engaged in voter enrollment, we call it the INEC voter enrollment device. After enrollment, when we are engaged in election, we call it the BVAS because it is going to be used for accreditation of voters. Now, after the election, the same technology, the same device will be used for uploading polling unit results into our INEC resolving portal. So it's a multifunctional device, and that's exactly what we are going to use.
That's interesting. This probably the first time I'm hearing it, that you're saying it, because the understanding a lot of us have is that it's just for accreditation. No, now we now know that you are using it for accreditation, right?
We are using it for voter enrollment.
Enrollment, okay.
For accreditation, and also for uploading of polling unit results into our INEC result viewing portal.
Oh, that's interesting. So, with what we have now, you've tested it in how many elections now? About 2 by-elections?
The Beavers. We tested it during the Isoko
the Delta
South State constituency election, yes.
So that I think you did in Nasarawa by-election?
Well, what we used during the Nasarawa State constituency by-election was the Z-pad.
Okay.
But you see, this particular device combines the functionality of the 3 of them. Before, we were using the DDC machine for voter enrollment. Now we are using the Beavers, as it were, for voter enrollment. Before, we were using the smart card reader for purposes of accreditation. Now we are using the Beavers for purposes of accreditation. In Nasarawa, we use the Z-pad for the purposes of uploading polling unit results. Now we are using the Beavers for purposes of uploading polling unit results. So it's a multifunctional device that combines a lot of features, and that's why we went for it.
So in clear terms, INEC is going to transmit result electronically.
We are going to upload polling unit results into our INEC result viewing portal.
That means you're uploading it electronically.
Exactly.
I know you were running away from.
I'm not running away
that
from
word because I mean it was being considered in amendment to the Electoral Act.
Yes.
For now, INEC, empowered by the Constitution to devise a means as it deems fit, gives you the powers to be able to get a procedure where you want to use any electronic device for this kind of election. And so it brings me to the question, there are a lot of people who thought that the Electoral Act amendment would come before the Anambra governorship election. If it doesn't come, does that take anything away from this election?
Well, as far as the commission is concerned, we operate on the basis of the existing law. And the existing law as of today revolves around the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended and the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. Those are the existing laws, and we combine them with our regulations, our guidelines, and our manuals. Now, we are also looking at a situation where the Electoral Act amendment bill may be signed into law before the Anambra governorship election. So the question we have asked is, are there provisions in the bill that is pending before the National Assembly as of today that will have an impact on the governorship election in Anambra State if it is signed into law? We've looked at that particular scenario. Now,
what did you find out in that scenario?
Yes, a few of them, but they are not really fundamental.
But I mean, because you're a lawyer, so give us a sense of what this means. If in the process of going through an election, because an election is not an event, it's a process. So it's not the day of the election that the election happens. The election has been prepared before the election day. So if the Electoral Act is, for example, a bill is being passed or signed by the president, would it have any effect on the immediate election?
Let me answer you this way. Now, on the 7th day of October, we are going to release the final list of nominated candidates, and we're also going to release the voters register that will be used for that particular election on these 2 days. Now, if the Electoral Act Amendment Bill is signed into law after that, the implication is that we have implemented 10 of the items we have on our timetable and schedule of activities, and we have 14 of them. Now, if you look at some of the provisions of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, there are 2 provisions that are fundamental that may impact on the governorship election in Anambra State if they are signed into law, if it's signed into law today. The one is that in the new bill, in the bill pending before the National Assembly, it makes provision on what will happen if a nominated governorship candidate dies before the announcement of results, the new bill says that the deputy governorship candidate steps into the shoes and then nominates a running mate.
Yeah.
So that's one of the implications of the of the new bill. The second implication is that it also talks about what happens under Section 68 of the Electoral Act. Prior to this particular period, the Electoral Act says that the decision of the returning officer relating to the scores of candidates is final, subject to review by a court of law. The new bill says that if there is a challenge, if the commission believes that a provision of the provisions of the Electoral Act has not been followed, or that there has been undue pressure or duress on the returning officer, that the Independent National Electoral Commission has a period of 7 days to review what the returning officer has done and may change what the returning officer has done, subject to review by a court of law. So these two provisions may likely impact on the Anambra governorship election if the National Assembly concludes the work and then the president signs into law.
Too.
Yes. So we've looked at some of these things, and we are confident that we have the capacity to deal with any eventuality relating to them.
In terms of internet penetration, INEC has said, we will go ahead. We have the capacity. That's what we have told the nation. The NCC had told the Senate when they were invited that the issue of penetration is a problem, that there might be possibility of us not being able to 100% be able to use the internet and all of that. Can you tell Nigerians at this forum that you are, that INEC really are taught through this process that you are ready to transmit the result electronically?
Well, we've thought through this process.
I'm not talking about one election. I'm talking about a general election across the country.
Exactly. We have thought through this process, and to show Nigerians and also convince Nigerians that we've thought through this process, we reduce our thoughts and we reduce our position into a written form, and we have distributed it widely, and we are still distributing the position of the commission relating to some of these issues. Let us be very, very clear. We have made it very clear that the whole issue about electronic transmission of results is not something that started today. The commission has thought through these things for almost a period of 10 years, and we have piloted this process for almost a period of 10 years. In 2018, and we have been consistent, in 2018, we met with the NCC and also met with the major providers, major network providers. And at the meeting in 2018, it was agreed and it was found that 93% of all the polling units of being used by the Independent National Electoral Commission are covered by the major networks. That was in 2018. So the point, and the major networks in 2018 said that they had the capacity to quickly cover the remaining 7%. So for us, we do not have any challenge with the issue of electronic transmission of results. This whole thing, this whole debate, this whole narrative relating to whether we have capacity, whether there is internet penetration, is governed by certain parameters and certain variables. One is governed by the issue of fear, of the unknown. People do not know what may likely happen if the commission begins to transmit election results. What will be their position, especially for those who are used to manipulating electoral results, intimidating voters at the level of the polling units. So it's fear. The second issue that is driving this whole thing is just misrepresentation. Misrepresenting the views of the commission in relation to whether we have the capacity or we do not have the capacity to transmit election results. But the truth of the matter is that since the time we started uploading polling unit results, we have conducted more than 27 elections. None of those elections has been upturned in relation to the processes and procedures of the commission. All have been, the challenges around those elections have been in relation to the nomination processes of the political parties. As an electoral management body, we believe that if we begin electronic transmission of results, one, is going to increase trust in the electoral process. 2, it will enable us to much more creatively and more concretely manage electoral outcomes and manage election results. 3, in the context of the pandemic, it will also reduce the type of overcrowding we have within the collation centers. You know, and it will also reduce this whole issue about challenges in speedy dispensation of justice.
Let me quickly say this, Mr. Okoye, and I'll put your mind. I know you use more than one telephone line.
Yes, I do. Yes,
that's because of the inefficiency of network, and where you might want to travel. I use more than one telephone line. A lot of Nigerians too, and the fear is that when one fails, you can revert to the other. You have an alternate line. That's one of the reasons. That's not the only reason why people carry more than one line. So the question is, should there be a failure of network on the day of election on the bimodal accreditation and voting or transmission process? What happens? If there is a certain polling unit or an area or a local government area that there is a failure of network on the day, because we have had people on the program that we took them on Zoom, we could hardly have them for 5 minutes from Anambra State because of bad network.
Let me answer your question from 2 perspectives. The first perspective is that before we started talking about electronic transmission of election results, we sat down with the major network mobile providers, and we mapped out the country. They know the areas of their strength. And we had already assigned the major networks to different parts of the country where they believe they have strength. And in the places where we believe that a particular network provider does not have strength, we match them with other network providers. So we sat down with them in 2018, and in 2018 they agreed that they were good to go, that this thing was doable and that it was practicable.
But it was not 100%. So that's the question I'm asking now. Is that what is the alternative? Should the bimodal, the device fail at the moment that is going to be used? Is it going to be online 100%, 24/7 for it to work?
No, let us differentiate what the bimodal is doing. The bimodal uses battery for now. It uses battery. We charge the battery, and when we tested this thing during in 84 polling units in Isoko, the battery, none of them had any battery challenge. What it does is that when you come to the polling unit as a voter, we first of all find out whether you have come with a genuine PVC issued by the commission. If you have come with a genuine PVC, you will now get to the second stage. The second stage is to test whether your biometrics. We test your fingerprints. If your fingerprint goes, if there's no problem, you are accredited and you go and vote. If your fingerprint print fails, then we will capture your facials and match your facials to your picture that we have.
So locally, the devices have offline data on them.
Exactly.
That's where I'm going to. Exactly. Because then if it fails, because if there's no network on your phone, you can still check your contacts.
Exactly.
So that's the point I'm going to.
Yes.
So you can capture this offline.
Yes.
And upload it at later point.
Yes.
That's where I'm. That's the question.
You know, the type of uploading we do, and that is what people do not understand. The moment we use the device to upload results, if there's no network where the presiding officer is at that particular point in time, it will store the information, and then when you get to the collation center, it will upload itself. So we do not have
that seems to settle a lot of those network problems and all of that.
Exactly.
Because you can take a picture and you may not send it via WhatsApp or whatever means, but you get to where there's network and you can send it. That seems to have satisfied some my curiosity in that respect.
Yes.
One area that I would like you to talk about is the threat that we're hearing on the ground about this election, the psychological threat.
Yes.
We've been hearing sit at home orders by the non-state actors in Anambra State and in some parts of the southeast. Does this worry the commission? And if it does, what are you doing about it?
Yes, we are worried as an electoral management body. We are concerned about, as an electoral management body, we are concerned about the fluid security situation in the country and also in Anambra State. We monitor, we observe almost on a daily basis what is going on with the campaigns, what is going on with the people, what is going on with the voters, and what is going on with our staff out there in the field. So we are really concerned. And we've been meeting with the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, both at the national level, the state level, and at the local government level. And in the next few days, we are going to accelerate our engagement with the critical stakeholders in the electoral process, traditional rulers, religious leaders, civil society groups and organizations, the media and civil society. So our main aim is to make sure that we have a tranquil atmosphere to enable us deploy properly. You understand that we are going to deploy over 25,000 ad hoc staff to go and run the Anambra governorship election. And the bulk of this staff are going to come from young men and women doing their national youth service and also students of federal tertiary institutions. These are young men and women with a bright future, and the commission will not like a situation where any of them will come to any form of harm. So we have been appealing to both the government, the critical stakeholders, to make sure that all of us do whatever is necessary to have a very calm election in Anambra State. Because if you look at Section 178 of the Constitution, it makes it very clear that we must conduct the Anambra governorship election within a certain constitutionally circumscribed period.
If not, there will be a constitutional crisis.
Definitely, yes.
So, to wrap up now, 3 quick things that I wanted you to weigh in on. One, I've heard INEC give out 10 warnings in the past. If there is violence, we will not conduct elections. We will not jeopardize the lives of our staff. I've heard INEC say that in the past. Do you still stand on that?
Well, you know, Section 26 of the Electoral Act gives us the power to reschedule or postpone an election when there's threat of violence or when we believe that the lives of our staff will be in jeopardy. But, you know, we can only postpone within those circumscribed period in Section 178 of the Constitution. Thereafter, we cannot postpone anymore. And if we are unable to conduct election within this period, it becomes a very, very big problem. And it goes outside the confines of the Commission.
And you have insisted no bimodal use in the election, no voting.
If we can't authenticate your fingerprint and we cannot capture your facials within the framework, you will not be allowed to vote unless you leave your face at home and you come to the polling unit. If not, we can capture your fingerprint and we can capture your face. Yes.
The last, I have 10 seconds before we take a break. And that part is ABGA, PDP, status quo remain, right? From the last time.
Yes, there's no change.
Professor Charles Soludo is still on the list, and Mr. Valentine Ozigbo names still on the list, isn't it?
Yes.
Status quo.
Yes.
Remains.
Yes.
Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner on Voter Education and Publicity, thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, do expect our invitation as much as we get some other development. Thank you so much for coming. Let's take a break, everyone. But when we come back, the House of Reps are also asking President Buhari to ensure that bandits are declared terrorists. What does this mean when both chambers of the National Assembly are singing from the same hymn book? We hear from them when we return from this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's switch gears from election matters to security matters. So, yesterday, the Senate asked President Muhammadu Buhari to declare bandits terrorists. Like the Senate, the House of Representatives today is asking the President also to proscribe bandits and their sponsors as terrorists. The matter was raised by the chairman of the House Committee on Defense, Honorable Babajimi Benson, who stated that officially that is bringing this to the notice of the House, that the activities of bandits and their sponsors within the purview of the Terrorism Prevention Act, and any persons associated with such groups can then be legally prosecuted and sentenced to penalties specified in the Act. Tonight, I have joining me two members of the National Assembly from both chambers. I have the member, House Committee on Defense, Honorable Abubakar Ahmed. Thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
Senator Estefanos Giang is the Deputy Chair of the Senate Committee on Defense. We're speaking to the right people tonight. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let me begin, because you joined your colleagues in the Senate to say, declare these bandits, these criminals, declare them terrorists. Why do you think the president should do so?
Well, the issue is not far-fetched. We have been trying to, have been searching for a silver bullet, single silver bullet that can bring this issue of insurgency to nerve. And unfortunately, it is nowhere to be found. So we felt if other uprisers in the form of insurgency, whatever freedom agitators could be proscribed, could be leveled, and by the instrumentality of authority or court provisions, then why not this bandit who have been maiming, killing, and then causing unrest? So when the upper chamber, the red chamber, came up with this idea, we at the committee level felt the only thing is that when we come to sit-in, we skip a day because of the demands of our colleague. Otherwise, I could have said we could have even made this act for this proclamation much earlier. But be it as it may, they did it, and then we thought, okay, let us also throw our weight so that this will give a leverage. It will help the security personnel to actually prosecute this war precisely.
Senator, you have an oversight role on the defense. And one would think that the role of the National Assembly is to make laws as the case deemed fit. You can make new laws, you can amend the old ones. So one would think, instead of asking the president to do so, is there no other thing that you can do to ensure that this prescription happens from the point of view of the National Assembly?
Thank you for having me on this program. Let me say that I want to appreciate our colleagues in the House of Representatives for the concurrence on the resolution to calling on the president to declare bandits terrorists. This has been long overdue due to the fact that if you look at the atrocities, the cataclysmic effect of their very devastating and destructive criminality upon the nation, it is the right thing that the National Assembly, of course the Senate yesterday, and of course the House of Representatives have come up so that we can get the president to step up and come up with this declaration so that it will give the military and our law enforcement agencies the leverage to effectively combat this criminality and this terrorism that it is. Now, you talked about the issue of why not go by way of law instead of a true resolution. We already have an existing law on terrorism. This resolution is just to get these bandits to be branded and to be rightly classified, having been properly profiled by the security agencies, the intelligence agencies have already, a lot of profiling has been done that has brought up this to this point where now a resolution of the National Assembly for the president to declare, make that declaration so that the existing law, the Terrorism Prevention Act, can be fully enforced by the military and law enforcement agencies in the fight against terrorism in the country.
So,
furthermore, to elucidate on that, just as a rider,
okay,
you see, there are processes to, when you look at the Provision Act,
the way it is, even if they were captured, they have to be subjected to a competent court of competent jurisdiction. All this process delayed. They can now hire a very good lawyers that can protract, and then the issue of mutual punishment might be protracted. So in order to contract, to bring it to what do you call it, to hasten the prosecution. So by that proclamation through by Mr. President, I think it's a quicker antidote to this scenario.
So are you saying, because what I'm not trying to get is that you said there are provisions already in the law under the Terrorism Act, but in this sense, because the urgency of now demands that these guys needs to be branded and tagged as terrorists. Does the resolution of the National Assembly will be passed to the president, or how do you guys go about it after you have passed the resolution on both chambers?
It's communicated.
It's communicated.
There are committees on legislative compliance, and every resolution of either of the chambers is communicated to executive arm of government for consideration and compliance. Though resolutions do not have the effect of law, but coming from the two chambers, it has that moral force that the people, we are representing the people. We are here for the Nigerian people. So this resolution is a reflection of the desire, the wish, and of Nigerians, knowing what these bandits are doing across the country. If you look at the level of atrocity, the level of massive destruction of lives and property, the one that even surpasses that of Boko Haram. In fact, they become the envy of Boko Haram. So you have a situation where we in the National Assembly, we have a responsibility, because the primary responsibility of government is to secure the lives of citizens. And the National Assembly, we are here to ensure that that primary responsibility is what government gives primacy to. And to that extent, this resolution is to tell Mr. President that this is what Nigerians are passing through, and this is part of the solution. We are out for a solution. What can we do to bring this banditry to an end? Let us tag them. Let them be branded. Let them be classified as terrorists, given the fact that their activities and their atrocities and the level of the evil they are doing and criminality that they are doing is no other than you can't call it any other thing other than terrorism. Because
I know by the way of your oversight roles in the National Assembly, you have information. You are privy to speaking to the commanders and knowing what is on their minds. Are you getting this kind of information and feelers from them that this is what they want also?
Yep. Yeah. What is going on is, by reason of our interaction at committee level with the defense chiefs, I want you to understand that there is the political will. There is a level to which they can prosecute. Like one of them, one of the generals, though retired, was here yesterday talking about the fact that there is a way, when it comes to operations, that there is a political dimension to it, that you can only go this far to the extent that the political decision and the political will allow you. So we are probing and prompting the president to demonstrate the political will and make this declaration, so that the leverage that is required by the security agencies in combating this terrorism, banditry that I prefer to call terrorism, will take a more forceful face and form. And that is what they want, and that is what we have done.
It's interesting. Honorable, are the generals getting frustrated about a few things that you can tell us tonight?
Well, not frustrated as such, but limited by circumstances.
And what are these circumstances?
Well, sometimes it is not good to come on the air and start telling out the shortcomings or otherwise of the security. But be it as it may, assuming without considering, that yes, there are, and we have interacted with them. Sometimes back before we went on recess, we conducted this security summit in the House of Representatives. Outcome of all our resolutions were taken to the presidency and counted. Some of these changes that were witnessed were as a result of the security summit. And part of it, even those two bills that we opened this session with, you know, the explosive, the smaller arms bill that came from the executive, as a result of all this our interaction. But let me tell you, the generals are ready to prosecute the war. That, in fact, what is even happening is that they are now looking internally. I appeared sometimes here, though, on a different platform, Sunrise Daily, with Chamberlain, and we discussed, I said, there are some Judas, even in the armed forces prosecuting the law. And we have been proved beyond reasonable doubt. So they have their own way of checking. Recently, there has been a kind of this unit, which a commandant of a certain unit paraded some of his unit, and in that command, he found about 2 or 3 people who were exchanging intelligence with the bandit, and they were apprehended. So much is doing that we don't need to come on air and start telling. But let me tell you that there are some limitations. So this executive order by Mr. President, if accepted and proclaimed, it will remove so many much impediments.
So I was asking the initial question about the resolutions and the power of the National Assembly. This is not the first time you're passing resolutions, and those resolutions have come, I mean, pardon my language, to nothing. It has not materialized. So what do you do in the event of this situation? You've passed this resolution. It's an important matter. What do you do?
We are an arm of government. And as an arm of government, we have a responsibility. And part of our responsibility is to raise the issues. Apart from lawmaking, oversight, and representation, we through on the platform of representation, we raise issues that are of critical national importance. And this is one such issue. And as long as we are in this country and issues will crop up that affect the people, Nigerians on a daily basis, we would continue to raise those issues. We will continue to clamor for the intervention of the executive arm of government. We would continue to probe the executive arm of government. It is left for the executive arm of government to do what Nigerians want them to do through the people's representatives, yes, the Senate and the House of Representatives. We also have our powers. We have our powers where we can invoke certain powers when it comes to certain obvious issues that has to do with the survival of the nation. And where we find that the executive is not forthcoming, we have those powers to invoke. And I'm telling you that since it is a situation that has to do with the safety of Nigerians, because every other right accrues only to the living. That is why the Constitution says that the safety of citizens, their lives and property, is the primary responsibility of government. And when it has to do with that issue, we would continue to talk. We would not keep quiet until the executive does the right thing.
I can imagine you're from Plateau State.
Yes.
And your state recently was held by this kind of crisis. And the question is the way forward. And you are a member of the Defense Committee. So let's talk about the way forward, the solutions to this problem. Now you have raised one of the issues that the president should declare these guys terrorists. Beyond that, what are the solutions that we need to be? First and foremost, let me begin with you, Senator.
Let me thank you for bringing the issue of Plateau State. When it comes to Plateau State and what this resolution came up to, I want to appreciate the Senate and the House of Representatives, because right from the House of Representatives, before transiting to the Senate, I've been calling for the National Assembly to make this resolution as a formal resolution of the National Assembly, which it has come to. This issue of banditry is not limited to my state. Now it is, they are running the Northwest over. Almost all states in the Northwest are being run over by bandits. So we now have a unanimity, a concurrence, and a convergence of resolve that it is no longer only Plateau State, but virtually the whole of the North. So now there is a convergence of resolve that we have to tackle this thing frontally. It is no longer an issue of sentiment. It's an issue that every state is battling with. And I thank God that now every other person in this Nigeria now knows the pains that we've been passing through in Plateau State, and now know the reality is for us to brand these bandits, these people that are ransacking communities, sacking and taking over communities in Zamfara, in Plateau State, in Katsina, all over the place as terrorists. And sir, we in the National Assembly, indeed, we would want our security agencies to be further empowered. You know, when it comes to the security, there is the issue of the big five. There is the manpower, there is the training, there is the equipment, there is funding, and of course there is the issue of motivation and welfare of the men. We in the National Assembly, we have, as a committee, and indeed the National Assembly, we have done a lot to ensure that, one, we've made resolutions on the military to get more men by way of recruitment, and the training, the equipment, that has been taken through by way of appropriation. The supplementary budget that we just passed took care of the issue of funding, and of course, the issue of motivation and welfare, so that they can be better equipped to deliver on the mandate of the fight against terrorism and against all these people that are terrorizing our citizens and destroying our communities.
Honorable, your state also has had its share in this crisis. What is the solution from your point of view?
Just to add my weight behind what he said, like he said, during the last assembly, we were together in the House of Representatives, and he now metamorphosed into the senator. Yes. So, like he said, this has been the clarion call. But I was so astonished that must we have to allow it to bedevil so many states before we swing into action?
What kind of action do we need to swing into?
That
is there something that we are supposed to do?
By taking it decisively, that is something we are supposed to do. Like, okay, he mentioned about 5 scenarios that we need to. We have acquired the Tucano. We have never heard that since the arrival of the Super Tucano, have they ever been deployed?
Have they?
What is happening?
You are in the defense committee.
No, that is what
you should be able to tell us.
That is the question we are asking them. They are yet. You ask them, the issue of manpower, capacity, and training is there. And again, we now discover that with this small insight, there has to be an internal cleansing, which up earlier, if it is being done, it was not being done with the vigor that has been given today and tomorrow. So they are fishing out the moles. They are plucking all the holes for sharing of intelligence so that they can be neat and made squarely. So they are doing that. And I can talk to you, our oversight function with the engagement we had with some of the defense chief last week, we came to know that, yes, now we have started prosecuting the war.
Do you see any positive movement in all of this? Are you seeing any result?
Presently, we're in a difficult situation. We're in a bad situation. And that is why we are saying that we are not satisfied with this. As long as Nigerians are not satisfied, as long as Nigerians are still being killed, as long as communities are still being attacked and displaced, as long as we are facing our schools are being, whole schools, students are being kidnapped, as long as this state of insecurity is the situation, I cannot be said to be satisfied. I cannot tell you
I mean, things were bad. I think it's getting better. In terms of, I think it's getting better.
If things were getting better, we will not be telling you that these people, there is the determination.
Things that things are getting better.
No, the bandits are getting more and more emboldened. That is why we are coming up with this resolution.
Do you share the same view?
No. I differ here. The reason is that when we started with this issue, the Boko Haram are there, the bandits are also clamoring there, but at least the Boko Haram has been disseminated. Most of the areas under their control that they raised their flags have now been return into Nigerian territory. Ask the people from Borno, Yobe, you could say some of them were even able to farm. So at least, at all, 9 bad pass. So we have come somewhere. But yet,
the minimalist, at least, you say we have gotten the minimum. That's yes, from your point of view.
That's the point, yes.
We need to leave it at that. But because I'm speaking to a PDP leader tonight, just in 30 seconds, let me get your view. Your party has zoned the chairmanship and has basically swapped all the southern positions to the north. What's your view on that?
It's a party decision, and I'm a party man, and I will stand by my party.
Is it the right thing?
We are going to be briefed. We'll discuss it, and after the discussion, if it will come back to us in NEC, we will see the reasons why the committee has come to that. So I would not want to preempt the work that the committee has done when we have a time that we'll sit as NEC to discuss.
The committee has done its work.
It's a committee that we are the NEC that constituted that committee.
But what's your own personal view?
I'm telling you that
it doesn't take anything away from you. Your personal view does not.
My personal view for
NEC
now
is a group, but you are a person.
I am a NEC person, and it's not good for me to disclose what we NEC are going to say.
You're speaking like a politician. Senator Stephanus Giangi is the deputy defense committee chair in the Senate, and Honorable Abubakar Ahmed is also a member of the defense committee in the House of Representatives. We're trying to speak to the right people, and you have the duty of the oversight, and that's why we're speaking to you. We're looking forward to your action in ensuring that these things are nipped in the bud. And I wish you the very best. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimbale. Bye-bye.